Chandra sir, should we wait for another 5 minutes?
Good
Hello.
morning and namaste to all the participants. I hope all of you had a wonderful Diwali celebrations. Have spent Diwali with your family and friends, uh, and celebrated happy and prosperous. Today, I welcome all of you for this session on documentation. I request uh, team from Arthayan to introduce the speaker of the day. Meanwhile, I welcome all the participants. Speaker of the day, Mr. Rajesh and Team Arthayan. So I hope this session would be very interesting, insightful, and you'll learn a lot from this session. And I welcome Team Arthayan to introduce the speaker and
Yes, sir.
take the proceedings further.
Yes, sir. Uh, so, as you all know, today's session is more about the documentation which is needed by startups in their journey. So, we will be covering documentation related to clients, employees, vendors, and compliance, which is mandatory. We'll also be covering the important aspects of such documents and what should founders keep in mind while carrying out this activity with various stakeholders. So I know that most of you are thinking that is this really necessary? We are just a startup. Is documentation really necessary for our journey? So to which I think our speaker of the day, Mr. Rajesh Ajgaonkar, who is the Chief Compliance Officer and Company Secretary of IDBI Federal Life Insurance, will guide us through. So Rajesh has done his masters in commerce and bachelor of law. He is also a cost accountant and company secretary. He has worked in companies like Tata Motors, IDBI Capital, Aditya Birla Mutual Fund, ASK Raymond, James Group, and of course now his current stint is with IDBI Federal Life Insurance. So he'll walk us through the essentials of today's session and hopefully take any questions that the participants will have after he's done with his presentation. So over to you, Rajesh sir.
Thank you, Bala. I'm just putting my video and audio on now. Hello, friends. It's a great pleasure to be interacting with you all today. I really consider myself fortunate to be speaking to so many budding entrepreneurs who are thinking big, just starting their lives, just starting their careers, and wanting to be entrepreneurs. It's a very, very big thing that you're planning to you're planning to take such a big leap in your life. And I'm thankful to the teams here, the Atha team, for bringing me on board to talk to you. Before I start, I'll just reintroduce myself because Mallar has given some good introduction about myself. What he has told you is the kind of companies that I have worked. I have been in the industry. I have been working for last 30 years. It's a pretty long time to be in the industry, and it's a long experience. But what has not come through in my resume, the biodata, is the kind of mistakes that I have made, the kind of mistakes I have seen big people make. And I have worked with companies like Tata Motors. I have worked with Mr. Kumar Mangalam Birla himself. I have seen Mr. Ratan Tata working. And there are many other people who are supposed to be wizards of Dalal Street, those kind of people. And I have worked with them. I have learned a lot from them. It's not that I have arrived in life. I would not say that. I have, as I said, I have this 30 years has been a mixed bag of a lot of mistakes that I have made and a lot of mistakes others have made. Sometimes mistakes have ruined some people when they had started their careers on the wrong note or had done some wrong choices in life. So my intention today, speaking to you, is just to share a lot of these things because the important thing is that you are starting your careers now and you are going to be entrepreneurs soon. Many of you will be greatly successful, hugely successful in life. And I just want you not to, I mean, you can commit more mistakes. I mean, you are entitled to commit mistakes, but the kind of mistakes that we have made, I have seen other people making. I'll try and share those things with you through this short presentation. And maybe you can avoid these mistakes and you can make some other mistakes. That's fine. but just pay a little hit to the experience. What it is called as experience is nothing but a mixed bag of mistakes that people make. So I'll just share my experiences with you. And on that note, I am starting the presentations today. The disclaimers first, because I'm the compliance officer. First disclaimer is that the views that I'm expressing here may not be, and they are not of my company. So that I need to tell you upfront. I would not say that I have answers for each and every question that you may have. There are certain things which you file routine, as Malar had initially said. It's possible that you may feel that ये documentation to सबको पता है. Why really get into this kind of documentation? So there could be various approaches, there could be various thoughts, but I would request you to even if you know a lot of things about it, because some of you may have worked before becoming or thinking of becoming entrepreneurs. So but it's better that you have everything together at one place, so that it just it's sort of revision, maybe the way you used to do in our schools and colleges. So I'll start with the presentation now. So my presentation basically is divided into three or four main categories, I would say. One is, of course, documentation related to employees when you are taking employees on board. Documentation related to vendors, how you are going to empanel your vendors, how you are going to interact with them, and what are kind of terms and conditions that you like to impose on them, so that they deliver equal quality of work that you people also want to deliver to your clients. Documentation related to customers. And the last section will be on some essential document. I won't say that it is a full documentation list of requirements that we may be giving you, but very critical documentation which any startup or any company for that purpose needs to have in place. That is the documentation that we would like to share with you at the end of the presentation. Can just somebody confirm to me that they are able to view the screen?
Yes, sir, we can. We can.
Thank you. So as I said just now, the presentation is divided into four parts. Documentation related to the employees, to vendors, customer, clients, and then certain critical compliances. So documentation related to employees. Most important in any company, whether it is a startup, an established company, or wherever, generally people say that there are three H's that H which you need to keep in mind when you're starting any venture, which is head, heart, and hands. Okay, head and heart are you, your mentors, who will be starting the businesses, but at the same time you will be needing hands, and those hands have to be equally capable, if not as much as you are, but at least they should be able to share the same kind of passion that you share for your but you have for your venture. Unless you have those kind of people around you, it's very much possible that whatever a great idea that you people have will not be translated to the down level, and somebody you are working as an entrepreneur, the other person is going to work with you as an employee, but unless he has some shared passion with you of making that startup big, it's possible that the venture may fail. Unfortunately, despite having all good intentions, all good ideas with you, and the kind of hard work, the kind of midnight oil that you people will be burning, I mean, the other person also has to be equally aligned to that. So uh, now what is needed in the document? There are actually four stages. If you look at, I mean, you people may have worked in the organization, so you may have looked, you would have understood that there are various activities which run around, which happen around the recruitment of employees and selection of employees. But there are essentially four stages in which we work with the employees. What are those four stages? One is, of course, selection. Second is onboarding. I mean, having the employee on board with appointment letters and all those things. Third is, of course, performance delivery. When the employee is giving that performance delivery, how you are going to measure him. And fourth is exit. Exit, although the person is saying goodbye to you, it's a very, very important stage in the life of that person as well as you. And that's why I also like to talk about that exit in little more detail, because I have seen certain things happening around over there. In between, I will be able to I will be sharing with you some examples that I have seen, how employees behave, how if the organizations don't protect themselves, where people go wrong. You'll find those interesting, I'm sure. So documentation related to employees, you may not have a HR department. You are starting your venture, and you may not have an HR department. But what I would suggest is that you should get involved whenever matters of any matters of any human relationship come up, because HR department is the department which the entrepreneur, as much as possible, should keep to himself to begin with. And once you grow big, even then your involvement on HR front has to be higher, or equally as good as maybe on the other technology or a sales front. So first, how do we recruit an employee? First of all, we have to be very clear in terms of what is it that we are going to get done from that gentleman or the gentle lady. Okay, so we start with the job description. But what I'm going to tell you is a lot about documentation. You may find that this documentation is irritating. It's not really true, because it also helps you develop clarity in your own mind in terms of what is exactly that I want this person to do. And it may change over a period of time, right? In a startup kind of environment, there will be somebody who will come with some idea first, and you will recruit somebody for some kind of work. And over a period of time, you find that, okay, this person is not as good in this work, but he may be good in the other areas, or he has got other strengths, and you can exploit those strengths as well. He's capable of handling two departments, three departments. So what we have seen generally is that in established companies, or even and more so in startups, the person's role keeps on changing. But that's okay. At least to begin with, when you are recruiting a person, we are looking at a person, you should be very clear in terms of what is the job description that that person should have, and it should be written, so that whether you are talking to you're identifying these individuals by yourself, or you are giving the assignment to say one of your friends, or to some HR headhunter, uh, whatever is in your mind, once you write down on the paper, I think it translates best when you are communicating to the third person. So this job description defines the person's roles and responsibility, and it has to be very, very precise and clear. So what does it consist of? Very simple thing, as you would anyway understand and be aware. Job title, the duties that person is going to do, the main features of the job, authority and responsibilities of the job holder, who he will be reporting to, and who will be reporting to him. Very important. Standards expected of performance. Those will come more when you are performing the KRS and KPI of the person when the person joins, and that I'll talk about in a minute later. But standards of performance that you expect from that person should be jotted down in the job description document also. Also the working conditions. Once the job description is floated, obviously you will get resumes. Once you get the resumes, you start interviewing people. uh, uh, okay, interview has to be structured. You just can't walk into an interview with no clarity in your mind. पर्सन अच्छा लगा तो ले लूंगा, नहीं अच्छा लगा तो ना कर दूंगा. It's not that way. That is not the way really it should work, because you will have very limited number of people who will need to be powerhouses of your energy, and the in shared energy that you will have. You have to be very, very careful in selecting the employees, and that's the reason you should go with a clear mind, and possibly a jotted down requirement of, I mean, certain rehearsed questions in your mind also. You should have some pre-interviewing checklist with which you should go, and then start interviewing the person. Here is given some interview guide. You can have your own, but this is kind of description that is a very standard one, and you may like to have it with you for your own clarity, as well as the clarity of the gentleman, or the person who you are going to interview. I come to some sample questions. This is not really the Bible. It's not necessary that interview has to go in the manner that is prescribed over here. And depending on the person's responses, the kind of interactive person he is, whatever, your questions will also vary. But if you're so there are questions, and I will go through maybe a couple of them. But what I'm trying to say to all of you is that you have to look for the same fire that you have in your belly in that gentleman. So attitude and character should be highest. So a person's integrity should be highest as over the capabilities. I'm saying it with very big responsibility, because what I have seen in my past work life of 30 years is that many times people are capable, and they are superbly capable, but they fail on integrity. And once they fail on integrity, or they fail on character, then you are doomed. As an employer, you are doomed. And capability can be developed. If somebody is little less capable, you can teach him, you can bring him to scale. But what you really need from a or other person is the attitude, right attitude to change, to adapt, to really give his 100% or more to the organization to which he's working, from where he's deriving the salary. And the character and integrity are really important. I'll share you some example of what I have faced in one of my previous companies. There was a gentleman who was very capable, and we recruited him in very senior roles. I mean, there was a merchant banking division in that company, and he was the head of merchant banking division. What he was supposed to do is to go scout for mandates, of course, merchant banking mandates, and come and submit to the company, make the presentation deck, and I mean, win a client and come and service him. Very simple. The person was capable. Initially, he did deliver on certain of his responsibility, and over a period of time, we started realizing that the flow of mandates started coming down. There was no really need. In fact, flow of mandates should have gone up. We had a very solid backing of a brand with us, and the gentleman was capable. So the MD and CEO was unable to figure out what was exactly going wrong. Had his passion gone down? But no. I mean, it appeared that he was same passionate as he was at the time of recruitment. He was going around traveling all across the country and making visits, and he was meeting a lot of people. So mandate should have come in with a normal conversion ratio. But what happened was, this gentleman started seeing opportunities for himself in smaller or mid-sized mandates, where he started pitching personally. Now, this was a huge breach of ethics. It was a huge breach of confidentiality. He started earning mandates for himself in his personal name, and he had started a company on his own without actually having his name directly, but in the name of his father, his friends, and that kind of thing. And it did not come to light for quite a number of months. Finally, we had to behave a little unethically. Once we started getting feelers about it from our clients, I mean, from somewhere from the market, we had to actually hack into his email account. Then we had to call police. One day we actually, I mean, we had a high drama in our office in terms of the punch. The police people had come, and we were sitting, and we hacked into his machine with all authorities. And then we saw that lot of wherever he had pitched on his own personal behalf through his own personal Gmail account, he had pitched, and that was a very bad day for us. I mean, we had to let our brilliant colleague go away, depart. The only good thing is that we did not spoil his market reputation. We quietly asked him to resign and go away. Had we terminated him, it would have been a loss of face for him, but more so for us as well, because we didn't have controls in place, I would say, to check these kind of things. But in when a person comes to committing a fraud or a breach, there is nothing that you can do much in terms of process controls, because it is all intention at the heart which matters in such kind of things. So you have to be very careful in terms of selecting that person. So I'm coming back to the interview guide. Try to gauge from the gentleman whether he is honest. Ask him questions about his previous experiences. Try to gauge whether he is greedy, whether he is a person. You can look into the eyes of the person and make out whether the person is honest person or not, unless he really puts up a show too much. He has to be a great actor to do that. But otherwise, I think generally you get a good idea of the person after asking him the right questions. If you be with him for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or 1 hour interview, if you do with him, you generally get a good idea about the gentleman. So these are the questions. I mean, you can ask about what recent disciplinary problems you have handled, what are the kind of supervisory difficulties, experiences that you have had, how have you managed your own people's high fire, reward, discipline issues, motivate. And it tells, if you ask this question, it does give you a peek into the personality of that person, as to what he thinks, whether he let's go of ethical issues, whether he compromises ethics for business. Those are the kind of things. If he is ready to do that for others, he will definitely do it for himself as well. So those are the kind of questions you try to probe in. After this interview is over, do jot down on a piece of paper what is the candidate's evaluation in your own mind, because you will be meeting many candidates thereafter, and you actually will mix up after, if you sit after 2 months to evaluate how many people you had met and who was the best person among all to satisfy your requirements. So better that you jot down these things in a candidate evaluation format. Sample evaluation format is given here. So you can score him on the various parameters like education, relevant job experience, supervisory experience, technical skills, overall ranking. Put some subjective comments as well. Expected CTC, current CTC, notice period, how many, whether he can join fast, when is the date when you interviewed him, and just keep this ready, sheets filed with you. The next point, obviously, once you make a choice as to whom you are going to employ, and you have to make a offer letter. Now, I think generally, before making an offer, as much as possible, you should definitely do a background verification, so that a kind of experience that my company went through, the experience I shared with you just now, you are not required to go through, because background verification reveals a lot of things. And people, I have seen, at least in India, we are not really, we don't give very honest feedback, is what I have seen. But if it is a background on the face of, when we are sitting face to face, we don't have that culture of giving a very hard feedback face to face. We find it a little difficult, which we should actually give honest feedback. We should be able to distinguish between a person's, I mean, a personality, a personal friend, and the kind of issues that we have with him, and we should be able to dealing these things. We are not good at that. But when you do a background verification and ask right questions, and when it is anonymous, or I mean, you are going through a proper channel source, you can actually engage agencies which will do these things. But in startup environment, maybe it is not difficult, it's difficult to afford these kind of agencies. You can do it yourself. But background verification is a must. As I said, the kind of experience I had, you should not be able to get through, because that person had done this to us, he would have done it in a earlier company as well, or somewhere wherever he had an opportunity. And actually, you can learn from those mistakes. Another, I just now I remember another experience like this, where for a portfolio manager whom I was working for in my career, uh, we wanted to hire a fund manager. And we we actually did a background verification for the gentleman, a very brilliant chap, very well known, well respected gentleman in the market. And when we did the background verification, we came to know that there were issues with his integrity. I mean, in the sense that, see, in portfolio management environment, if you're a fund manager, you become close to your clients, because you will have constant calls with the person to update him about the market, how his portfolio is doing. You will go and meet him, like a family doctor, like a family advisor. You become pretty close to him. You understand what that gentleman's life dreams are, what are his life goals are, who all are at his family. Those kind of things you come to know. And when you are and what happened, or what we came to know about the gentleman was that, although he was a very good fund manager, he used to become pally with the clients, and then he used to poach those clients later on, when he was trying to go to the another company. And or maybe he later on, finally, he became an independent portfolio manager. And maybe that is what always had in his mind, to poach the clients and start his own firm, because you can't start your own firm without, I mean, without having a client. It's very difficult to get the first client, as you always know. But this gentleman had this history from the previous organization to poach clients, and that is what was revealed in one of the background verifications. Somebody told us very clearly, and we said that, yeah, maybe you are intelligent, you are very good, you are extremely good at your work, your name is good in the market. We are sorry, we are unable to hire you, because we did not want to be in a situation where we have cultivated the clients over 20, 25 years, and this person uses his personality, his I mean, his way of approaching people, just to I mean, win away these clients from our company. And I think we avoided that disaster, because the other company where he joined actually faced that disaster later on, is what I learned from the market. But background verification, that's why becomes very, very important. The generally process takes place about in 3 to 10 days, but it is just a phone call. I mean, this is a process. But if you have know somebody from because if you actually hunt, you will come to know somebody who's aware of this candidate, and people will tell you honestly if you ask them honestly. There are other ways to do background verification for unknown people as well. I mean, nowadays social media, as you know, is very, very easily available. So you can actually go into I mean, you can see his posts, the kind of biases he carries, that all those things are visible on Facebook or on Instagram or anywhere else. You can go through public records. You can go through work history. In fact, if you engage an agency, they will do a CID kind of verification. They will find out criminal activities or some issues that he may have on police record. That thing also he will tell you. education records. I mean, I have come across many examples where people have forged their degrees. People were not graduates, but they showed that they are graduate. Again, those people may be great. I mean, graduation doesn't make a person great. I know that very well. I mean, but still, if somebody is willing to lie to you and say because you should hire him, I think he has got that criminal bent of mind, and you should keep away from that person. However, that person may tell you that he can win clients for you or whatever, because these are the kind of people who will put you in trouble someday or the other. Now we come to the next step. After having gone through the entire process of interview, after having gone through the process of background verification, now you are ready to make an offer. Offer is a very important thing. It has to be very clear, and it has to have, utmost clarity in terms of what exactly you are going to offer to him. uh, please don't make many verbal offers. Please don't make any verbal commitments. Those are mostly misunderstood, or people like to construe those in differently once time passes, time goes away. When you are, it's like marriage, when you are dating somebody, that is the time when all good facets are projected to each other. Everybody is in a happy mood, and after you are with that person for 1 year or so, and then he understands you in more details. He understands your positives, your negatives, your limitations, and he may try to exploit those things later on to his own benefit. And then all those words, verbal commitments that you would have made to him at the time of offer, can be twisted, can be those can be completely misinterpreted, and then finally what happens is a divorce, which is ugly. Avoid that. So it's much better that you have all those things clearly written down on a piece of paper before making an offer. It will have the position title, the employment time, whether it is part time, full time, compensation should be properly broken down into various heads. What are the benefits apart from the compensation that you are going to offer to him, if that is so? What is the start date? What are your working hours? Pay dates, very important. Whom he will report to, again very important. So once you make an offer to him on this basis, what happens is he accepts the offer. Once the candidate accepts the offer, then you issue an appointment letter. So this process is important to follow. You can directly issue an appointment letter as well, because some companies do that. But offer plus acceptance is a better contract tomorrow if something goes wrong at a later date. Appointment letter is what? It's an agreement, right? It's an agreement between you and him, or you and the candidate, stating explicitly that he's agreed to work. What are the terms of your agreement? It will have repetition of certain clauses of your offer letter, obviously, in terms of the payout and the working hours, leave, but it will have more things as well. Offer letter may not, it's not a contract, so offer letter is not so strict in terms of legal language, but appointment letter is a very, very, very crucial document in your life, because it will have more things, more than just a job description, or more than just the amount that you're going to pay to him. There will be clauses pertaining to confidentiality. There should be clauses pertaining to intellectual property. There should be clauses pertaining to severance, how we are going to, what are the kind of notice pays, uh, and these are very, very important things, particularly in a startup environment. For established companies where I have not worked in the startup, so I really don't have faced major issues, but still I have faced issues. But I guess people like you who are in the startup will face serious issues tomorrow if issues of confidentiality, intellectual property, those are the kind of things which are not there mentioned clearly in the document. See, once the person is working with you, it's definitely that he will use your resources. He will share ideas with you. He will have ideas coming from his other colleagues in the organization. In a startup, it's a very, very vibrant place. I mean, you'll be sitting together and you will be ideating and all those things, and suddenly this gentleman gets an idea. He latches on to that idea. Tomorrow he may file his own patent. Tomorrow he may say that this is my intellectual property right, and he may bar you from using that idea. You really don't know how these things will turn out, because finally it comes to all commercials, right? If somebody is going to earn a lot of money, he can steal your idea easily. He will do that. It's better that all these things, when they come to the court for testing, your document should be as much concrete as possible. And that's the reason why confidentiality with respect to your own data sharing outside, need to know basis data sharing, because he will be, or you may post him at your client's location as well, or wherever he is going. He should not carry the confidential information. Even in established organizations like ours, like we are an insurance company, and we have a lot of database of our customers. We have very strict, very strict clauses with respect to confidentiality. Even when we are operating in a normal day, there are so many restrictions which we put onto the machines of the person so that he cannot steal the client's data. It's very important. If you are in the consulting kind of assignment, and where you are going to get your clients share the data with you, and this gentleman or lady has an access to that data and misuses that data later on, it will put you into very serious troubles. As you all know, next year the data privacy laws in India will be fully in place. The rules and regulations will be in place, and those have got very serious ramifications on the owner of the organization. So you being the principal employee, you are responsible for the acts of your agents. And unless you are able to demonstrate to the outsiders that you had strict clauses pertaining to confidentiality, your appointment letters, or you had waivers taken for those things from your clients, or non-disclosure agreements have been put in place by you with your employees, whether you had the systems to show that the employees got to know the data only on a need to know basis. If you are unable to demonstrate that in courts, the courts will conclude that you are hand in glove with that erring employee, you are hand in glove with that misrepresenting employee, and you will be in serious troubles. You may actually face a closure of your business. So it's a very big risky thing, and that is the reason that you have to be very careful in terms of drafting an appointment letter. uh, I will tell you how I faced an issue, particularly with unionism. There is a particular state in India, you may be aware, where unionism is very high. We are an insurance company, and we have branches all across India. And not everywhere we face this issue, but there are certain places where there are labor unions and those kind of things. And then they instigate the employees, particularly non-performing employees. Once you start instigating people, the non-performance may mostly get together, they form a union, and they put pressure on the management to still keep them without, I mean, they're performing as good or as bad as the other branches of the organization are working. And I faced this issue very seriously. People got together. Thankfully, I would, and mostly, I mean, you also should remember that India is sort of a socialist country. We generally are the courts or the labor tribunals. Those are the places which are generally in favor of employees. And when they are ruling on issues, I have seen that mostly the merits are kept aside, and particular junior level courts want to be a little more benevolent. And that is the time when your appointment letter comes very handy to you. An appointment letter which has been signed by that person, accepting all the terms and conditions, because he does that when he wants a job, and he just changes his colors later on when you want a delivery from him. And that is the time this appointment letters actually put you in a very good stand. So we had union issues, and some employee was creating some issues at one particular branch. Thankfully, we had proper transfer clauses in our union, in our appointment letter. Many times people recruit people for a particular office only. You don't think that you are going to have more offices later. When you're starting new, you don't think of those many things initially. But we being an established organization, we had some branches, so we had to we could officially use the tool that we had in our hand in terms of transfer from one state to another, saying that that gentleman was needed in the other place of his duty. And that was a clause which could not be challenged by any court or a labor tribunal. And we actually transferred that miscreant from one place to the other. He obviously could not go, and but at the same time he could not get any relief from the court or the tribunal, because his job was transferable, and that clause was there in the appointment letter, and he had signed off on it. So then he had to leave the job. Otherwise, many insurance companies, so this is just such a simple thing, but many insurance companies who were little casual in terms of issuing appointment letters, which were just one pager simple appointment letters, they had to shut down their offices. Imagine, they had to shut down their branches at such places, because the contracts were not strong. The miscreant employees got together and put a lot of pressure on those companies. The companies felt that instead of fighting the battle all day along and really not able to focus on the business, it's better to close the branch and forgo the business. But this is where but things can lead to. See, at all the times as an entrepreneur, you have to think of future. It's the future is not just about your own business. The future is not just about what sales you are going to do or what technology you are going to bring. Those things are fine. Obviously, you have to think about that, but you have to also think that I'm going to grow big one day. I'm going to become big entrepreneur one day. I will have big company. I will have branches. I will have thousands of people working for me, and for that I should train my mind, and my policies and processes should be as much strong as possible, which will stand the test of time when the volumes grow up, when the number of people will grow up. If you put all those things in place when you're starting your organization, it tremendously helps you when you are building on it. I'm sure I am aware that your policies and processes for 10 people and 20 people organization will not be the same for 2000 people and 5000 people organization once you become. But if you have the bent of mind and you have done your documentation properly at the beginning of the organization, it helps you sail through easily, and the incremental changes that you make, they are easier to make rather than overhauling the entire policy. So here are the contents of employment agreement: term, compensation, waivers, notices, dispute resolution. Notice period is very important. How you are going to in any contract, I would say, just not employee contract. In any contract, we have to think from termination point all the time. I mean, nobody wishes that employment agreement should be terminated, or nobody wishes that the client agreement will be terminated. But these are facts of life. Someday something will go wrong. You will have a run with not all of your employees, but there will be some percentage of employees with whom you, because he's not performing to your expectation, you will be required to sever your ties with him. Same thing may happen with the clients. But when you are engaging into relationship and everything looks hunky dory, at that is the time that you should think about how the documentation should support me if this relationship goes bad, if this relationship is going to terminate. And from that perspective, the termination clause has to be very, very clear, and it should be in your favor. At least you should be able to fire a person without showing a cause also. I mean, because there are two things, as you know. You can fire a person by showing a cause, you can fire a person without showing a cause. Sometimes there are certain issues with that person which are not related to performance per se, but there could be in terms of how he behaves, attitude issues or whatever, and you want to fire a person or let him go without showing a cause. You can't show a performance clause because he's doing well, but you are not happy working with him because you are just lost trust in him. So the clauses should be there in the appointment letter. You can terminate a person without showing the cause by giving, say, 1 month's notice or 3 months notice, whatever you are willing to pay, and amicably walk out of the contract. So those are the kind of clauses which should be built into your appointment letter. Okay, so once the person joins, so now we have completed two phases of a person. One is for a person coming to you, one is selection, and second is onboarding. You have selected the person by going through the interview process, you have done the background checks, and now you have onboarded the person by giving an appointment letter. Now what? Now the person comes to your office, and once he starts working for you, there are certain basic policies which should be readily available with you. See, what is the benefit of having the policies? One is that you are clear in your mind. You may have forgotten what you started with, because if you don't have anything in writing, your mind also keeps on changing. It's a dynamic environment, dynamic situation, but policies help you to anchor yourself to the thought process that you had at the time of forming the company. So there have to be these policies. The benefit of policies is also written policies, I would say, is also that they this they help you when people blame you for biases. So, and that also keeps you away from giving bringing in any biases or doing any partiality with a person vis-a-vis another person. So if you have a clear compensation policy in terms of how we are going to do the appraisals, what are the grades going to be, how the rating and bonus grades or performance reward grades are going to be, if those things are at least broadly put in place in your policy, then people cannot accuse you of being partial or whimsical, or they will not say that ये तो उसको favor करता है और मुझे favor नहीं करता. I work hard. The other person is just a chamcha of the boss, and that's the reason that that person gets more benefits. So those things are, they can clearly be avoided, and that ill will can which happens starting the organization can clearly be avoided if you have written policies in place. So what are these policies? Compensation policy, of course, which is also called as remuneration policy. The leave policy, which should clearly lay down what kind of leave and how many leave a person will accrue in a year. How the performance review will take, the performance review policy, how performance review will happen, whether it will happen half yearly, annually. I recommend it should happen half yearly, because you can give timely feedback to the person, so that he can correct his actions during the rest of the year. Otherwise, the person will say that at the end of the year, you are coming and telling me that I have not performed well. You never told me what your expectations from me were. I would have corrected. Otherwise, if I always thought that you were very happy with me, and now you are giving me a rating of 3 or 2 or whatever, and I'm getting no bonuses. So it's better to avoid those kind of things. You should have a performance review policy, workplace regulations, code of conduct you should have, training policies you should have. Nowadays, people are working from home mostly. So remote work policy, very important policy nowadays. It has certainly become, should have operating policies like travel policy or conveyance policy, confidentiality policy, as we talked about some time back. There are other important policies like whistleblower policies. I mean, for a new organization may not be relevant, but it's good to have those kind of things. Very important policy is this prevention of sexual harassment policy. Nowadays, many organizations have started facing issues, and these issues have not just monetary problems, but they have major reputational consequences also, as you know. You must have heard about cases in foreign countries, but even in Indian countries, India as well. Many of you would have heard one very famous Panish Murthy case. And what happens in for a person's wrong behavior to a lady in the organization, uh, the company suffers, because the settlements are enforced against you as a company, because you did not have the policies and procedures in place to check the sexual harassment, or to have a proper hearing against that, or to implement those kind of trainings. So these things have become very critical nowadays, and particularly if you are going to an organization which is going to work for clients from abroad, if you are going to get business from foreign countries, these are the kind of things that, as a part of evaluation process, the foreign suppliers, your clients will definitely look into, because gender diversity policies or gender protection policies are the things which are getting very, very important, apart from important issues like climate issues. You would have heard those. I mean, those are the things which are becoming very sensitive nowadays. And when your organization is being evaluated by your clients, customers outside for giving business, and they are going to evaluate you vis-a-vis others, you will see that these are the kind of smaller things, not small things, they're important things, but these are the kind of things which will put you in a very, a notch above your competitors if they have not worked on these policies. So those policies are the basic guidelines within which your employees are supposed to work. Now you have to tell the person what he has to do, right? And that is what is defined by the key result areas. You have to tell him very clearly before starting the work on day one. These are the things that I expect from you. Key result areas is your role, basically, right? Just tells that gentleman what he's required to produce in terms of results when he's working for this organization. Key results areas cannot be 100, they cannot be 20. Organization when you're telling a person to do certain work, maximum 5 to 7 KRAs have to be there, so that these are effective. Otherwise, if you keep on giving 5% weightage, the key results areas will total to 100. If you give 2% weightage for one area and 3% weightage for other area and make a list of 20 KRAs, really, guys, it doesn't help. Have 5 to 7 clearly defined key result areas and have some 20% weightage to those, so that the person knows exactly what he's supposed to deliver in this organization, what you are expecting from it. And you break down the key result series into key performance indicators. So key result area is a broader action that you are supposed to deliver, right? And key performance indicator will be a finer slice of it, which is say that for this broader action that you have to take, these are the key sub elements which should be delivered within these timelines and in this manner. So this is how the KPIs are derived. These are the matrices of KPIs which are derived, and these are given to the person. On the basis of that, you will rate him on a quarterly basis or a half-yearly basis, sitting with that sheet in front of you and him, and you can discuss, okay, these, boss, this was expected from you, these were your KRAs and these were KPIs. These KPIs were delivered. I mean, I told you to deliver a particular thing in 2 days and you delivered in 20 days. It's not the same thing, even though you have delivered it, and it hasn't helped the organization. That is a kind of frank conversation you can have with the person sitting face to face across each other, when you have ready sheets in front of you in terms of KPIs, KRAs, and KPIs. And on that basis, you keep on evaluating a person, and on that basis, you keep on giving him rewards, recognitions, promotions. The journey goes on. We have completed the 3 phases of a person's journey within the organization, and now we come to the exit process. Exit process is when the person wants to say bye bye to you, or you want to say bye bye to him. Let's talk about a process where he wants to say goodbye to you. Ensure that the exit is smooth. Okay. And do conduct an exit interview, because that tells you much more about your organization, about your own leadership style, or the leadership style of your supervisor, uh, to whom the gentleman was reporting to. And you can learn much more from that exit interview if you conduct it in a very matured way. And the smooth exit ensures that he doesn't carry a bad blood, within, I mean, when he's separating from you. He carries a good impression about your organization when the candidate is going out, and your reputation in the marketplace is protected. So uh, so yeah so this is the entire gamut of documentation which relates to employees onboarding, employees interviews, his onboarding, his offer letter, his performance in the organization until the time the person leaves the organization. These are all important things when you're looking for a right person to work with you, because your organization's impression is also made by the same people who will be working for you. They will be the people who will be meeting your clients. They will be the people who will be interacting with your vendors. And unless they are able to project the same values that you want to instill in their organization, it doesn't help. And your organization should stand for something, finally, right? Your organization should have some principles, some values, and everyone of you wants to become Infosys or the Tata Group or Birla Group, whatever. You may have dreams one day to make it that big, and that's the reason you should be able to stand. I mean, that value, those values will be created only if your people are aligned to you, and this aligning happens. This process happens this in the way this documentation works, and in the way the person comes to your organization, gets trained, and then goes away. uh, Within the organization, when you are working with these people, have zero tolerance. I'm suggesting zero tolerance to uh, ethical issues. Have zero tolerance to things like misselling. Have zero tolerance, obviously, to things like frauds. I gave you some examples earlier. In fact, a lot of examples come to my mind. We are a retail organization. We have got thousands of people who are selling our policies all across India, various branches, various bank branches, to brokers everywhere. And mis-selling is, I would say it is rampant, but there are 3 or 4% people who mis-sell for the products only because they want to earn their incentives or foreign trips or whatever. Unless you show zero tolerance to these things, even if the person is performing very well, it's possible that because of the mis-selling, you are able to get a business from a particular location or a branch on a very big number, in a very big number. Do I mean, don't think that only because business is coming, actually I can ignore the other bad things that person is doing, because that will land you into trouble at a later date. um, Suddenly I remembered one of our employees, in one of my earlier retail organization. He had created see, he's daring. I mean, he went and created a separate a branch, a fake branch of our company in somewhere in Himachal Pradesh, and he created a fake branch. We never came to know about it. The business was going well. He was in a supervisory capacity. Business was really doing well at those branches, and every month we were getting higher and higher business. That person was a star performer. He was taken on foreign trips. He was taken everywhere. and he was getting promoted. This happened. This went on for about, I think, well, 2 to 3 years, and we never realized that he was working through a fake branch. He had created a company's name, logo, everything, and he had set up a branch. Nobody knew about it. It's so sad. Our controls had failed, I would say, to that extent. What this gentleman used to do is that he used to, suppose somebody comes to him with 1 lakh rupees investment to make, he would give 20,000, 20% to the company, like our genuine company where he was working for, in terms of policies or whatever sales that he was supposed to do. Balance 80% he would keep with himself, and he would issue his own personal bonds to that to the customer. So customers' investment was being split into what was legally supposed to come to us in terms of the entire 1 lakh rupees. 20% of it was coming to us, although that was also a good number, and 80% was being used by him to issue some personal bonds or whatever. And he was, running a scheme over there, some this multi-layer schemes or something like that. It was going to fail one day. Finally, it failed after 2 3 years, and some customers started complaining. And that's the time when we came to know that the customer said that, oh, I have got a 1 lakh rupee bond from your company, whereas I have got I had invested 1 lakh rupees in the company, but I just got a document for only 20,000 rupees. I don't know my 80,000 rupees where it has gone. And that had been taken by that gentleman. Finally, we had to go very strong with the person. We had to lodge FIRs. We had to get the gentleman arrested. So these are the kind of things that we need to do, because we have to set an example within our other employees, so that nobody else dares to do it. So have zero tolerance to these kind of things is what I would suggest at this point in time. So this is what so far I had to say about the employees. I will now move to the next section. The next section is about documentation related to vendors. Vendors, they are equal partners in your business. Whatever you will deliver or you promise to deliver to your clients, I mean, it will all depend on how your vendors are going to support you, or how your vendors are going to whether the vendors are going to give the same quality input, because their input will be required for your business, so that you can convert that into output to your clients, right? So unless the input is of the same quality, the output will suffer naturally, right? And that is the reason that you have to be extremely careful in terms of selection of the vendors. uh, Now, again, how does it work, right? Just like employees, the way you are going to scout for your employees outside through headhunters or whatever, so you have some requirement that needs to be fulfilled. And there are two ways. I mean, you can directly approach a good vendor whom you are aware, and then you can approach that person and talk to him and get the inputs, or you can have an open tender, I would say, if you really require it on that scale. And so you may publish an advertisement, and during that advertisement, you can specify various the quality of goods and services that you're expecting, the last date of submitting a tender and application, all those things, right? Out of the applications received from various vendor companies, I mean, you will then naturally select the people on the basis of the price quoted by that person, number of years experience, the other clients that the person is that the vendor is serving. So on that basis, you will do a selection of the vendor. What happens then? Then you have to do a vendor registration process. Why? Because you have to have as much details about that vendor available with you, in terms of his name, address, his company's information, what are the kind of contact details he has got, where is his office located. You should also conduct an office visit of that person on an ongoing basis. Also, once he starts working from you, you should do a audit or inspection, even a surprise inspection of the. So those are the kind of clauses which should be built in your vendor agreement. Now, why this is important? I was working for Tata Motors at the initial days of my career. As you know, Tata Motors is making vehicles, and big vehicles assembly lines are running all through the day. And those times, so it was a huge deal. I mean, there was no so much of automation or computerization. and it was a lot of manual activity. Tata Motors had a division specifically catering to the needs of developing, these small manufacturers in Pune area, where they had to produce a lot of things, small things, which are required to be fitted into a car. So it could be a simple nut, it could be a simple bolt, it could be a simple washer or a rubber ring or whatever. But imagine, unless that person produces, that vendor produces that rubber ring or a nut or a bolt exactly of the same specification, a millimeter, micromillimeter specification that you are giving, the Tata Motors is giving, unless he's doing that exactly as per the same specification, plus exactly as per the timelines that you want him to supply, that one part, that's one small part which looks insignificant, can hold up the entire assembly line. And your car may be ready in all respects, but a particular screw or the rubber ring or whatever is not available, and the entire assembly line will be just held up. And imagine the kind of losses that the company would be making because of that. So that is the importance of having a good vendor with you. In my experience, I have also seen very dangerous things like, vendor running away with advances. So unless you evaluate a vendor properly, have taken the reference, just as you do reference check or background verification for your employees, you will really need to do these things for your vendors as well. Because unless you do that, I have seen, as I said, we have lost lakhs of rupees with couple of vendors like this, who I mean, who came across to us as very good gentlemanly people. They projected that they have got good facilities, and they were. We were very happy with interacting with them. We paid them advances and then they vanished overnight, or whatever, their businesses may have gone wrong or whatever, and we could not recover advances, because just for recovering their advances, the kind of legal process that we would have required to follow would have been very expensive. And that is the reason why we have to be very, very careful in terms of selecting the vendor, doing the due diligence on the vendor. So after having that negotiation with the vendor, these are the kind of elements that you will have in your vendor documentation, the exact requirements of the parts or whatever, goods or services. It could be services also, right? So what are the kind of services, what are the kind of TATs for providing those services, if there are any grievances, how those will be solved, how you will discuss those grievances, arbitration clauses. You need not go to court all the time, should have some arbitration mechanism built in, the payment methods, how the payment will be made, how much credit will be available. All those things have a lot of scope for misinterpretation or creation of a bad blood at a later point in time, because the vendor doesn't provide you a good quality service or timely service or good quality good or whatever, and then you don't pay him in time. He expects that no, his payment should have been made in advance, you delayed on his payment. Those are the kind of things which are very, very common, and it creates a lot of unnecessary legal hassle for both of you. So it's better that vendors are investigated properly, due diligence is done on them, and thereafter the agreements are very watertight, which are built with them. As I said some time back, vendor performance review on the ongoing basis is very important. And I would say that it is not just limited to the goods and services that he's supposed to do. You should go and visit his premises, obviously, on a quarterly basis or a half yearly basis. Go for a just cup of tea or whatever, just have a discussion with him. But also try to, through those discussions, those need not be just gossips, also try to gauge from those discussions whether the vendor is into a financial difficulty, what is happening on with his other clients, is he failing over there somewhere, is there any family feud which is going on within his families. Try to gauge those, because all these things, howsoever innocuous they may seem to be, they will have impact on his delivery to you at some point in time. So unless that vendor is happy, unless that vendor is into, he's getting good supply of business from other people, unless his financial condition is good and he's able to put some working capital, he will default with you if these things are not going in order. And that is the reason that you should do this performance review, not just for the goods and services exactly that what you have agreed for, but generally to understand how his business is doing otherwise. So this is important, and you should have clauses built into your agreements to get this vendor performance review done, so that he has he expects you that, and you are legally authorized to go and pay a visit to the facility. So this is as far as the documentation with the vendors is concerned. Now we come to the second last section, I would say, in our presentation, where now we're talking about role reversal. Now you are the vendor of somebody else. Now we are coming to a point where you are going to do the documentation with your customer or your client. Very, very important. Very important, because that is the source of revenue for you. That is where your money is going to come. That is where that person is going to pay you, and you have to run your show. So important, very important in terms of the kind of documentation that you are going to do with your customer. Just as the vendor is going to just as the vendor, you are going to scout for a vendor and ask for a lot of documentation, your client, your customer is going to also ask for a lot of documentation from you. So former commercial proposal is what he will expect from you, which should be so when you're quoting for your services, when you're quoting for your goods, you should have a you should have a standard format, I would say, of a former commercial proposal. What it should include: details of products and services that your company is going to offer to him, tenure of this service, specific exclusions if you are going to do those kind of things, AMC, one-time cost, recurring charges if at all. If the customer wants you to get an inspection done outside, then certification cost of your goods, if that cost is to be built in. There's so many clauses like that which have to be built into a commercial proposal. Once your commercial proposal is agreed, you are required to enter into a non-disclosure agreement. Okay, it's a legally binding agreement, mind you. It's a non-disclosure agreement that you will that you will that will engage or agree with your client. So basically, this NDA is typical document which says that, okay, from both sides, we will not part away with the confidential information. Whatever confidential information that you have an access to from the client's perspective, or the client will have an access to from your perspective, because you will also be revealing a lot of secret sauce, as they say, to your clients when you are deploying your resources on his behalf or at his location. So that non-disclosure agreement is going to protect you in such kind of thing. The client can also steal away your technology. The client can steal away your people. Remember that. So there are certain things with respect to non-poaching that you will also have to incorporate in your agreements with the customer. So when you are having an agreement with your customer, what are the key things that you will put? I mean, of course, there will be a complete service level delivery that you will be putting into the agreement. But how will you limit your liability? I have seen companies getting wiped out. Okay, small companies getting wiped out because some small mistake which has happened on at their end for some or by their employees, and the bigger client claims the client claims huge damages, not just the actual damages but exemplary damages from the smaller companies, and then they get entangled into a big legal fight and all those things, and it actually becomes a big mess. That's the reason when you have to be, first of all, very clear in terms of what kind of product and service that you are going to service and within provide, and within what timelines. That's important. But suppose something goes wrong, you should limit your liability to maybe depending on the negotiation, of course, but maybe for the cost of goods, or for the half cost of service or something like that. You should put in your agreement that indemnification from your side will be not unlimited. The indemnification from your side will be only limited to, say, if you are going to earn 1 lakh rupees fees from him, from that client you are expecting, then you should say that I will indemnify you to the extent of 50,000 rupees, or maximum that 1 lakh rupees. Because indemnification is a very, very wide thing, because the client can say that because you failed in giving me this service or this particular product within this time, I suffered a loss of 1 crore rupees, and he can put that entire thing on you. So be careful, be very specific that your liability will be there, but it will be limited to the fees or the profit that you are earning from this transaction. That is very, very important. Again, here I remember about our customers in the portfolio management domain. What happens, in portfolio management domain, when you are managing the portfolio of a person, of course, it is subject to market vagaries, right? Markets can go up and down, and that person, gentleman's portfolio, can go also up and down. His profit will also keep on moving. He is your customer, and you have to respect him. many times the kind of agreements that we had with these portfolio managers were of the nature where we share the profits. You must have heard this. तुमने इतना profit किया, तो I get this much fees. If you don't make profits, I don't also make profit. Looks very good on paper, right? It's very interesting. So it feels good for the customer as well as for you when you are sitting upfront on day one and signing the agreement, where you say that if you make 20% profit, I will take 2% fees. If you make 40% profit, I will share your profits. So I will also share the profits with you. On 31st March, when you are actually raising a bill to the customer, the market is up, and you actually raise a bill on him because you have done the profit, right? You have done the profit for him, so you have raised a bill for share in that profit. You debit his account and recover your money. And what happens is, on 1st of April or on 15th of April, when actually the money has to flow from his account to your account, the market has fallen, and market has fallen substantially. That's the time when the customer will say that I am no liable, now market has fallen, I'm no liable to pay you share of property, or some ill will gets created because you have the portfolio and you recover your share of fees. It creates a huge problem with the customer. So unless that, and with you as well, right? So unless these things are clearly documented in your agreement in terms of on what day the profit share will happen, on what day the payment will happen, what happens, irrespective of what happens after that day, you will actually become, you will be on the wrong side, and actually you can become come into some tougher situations. Okay, so not talking about bad things. Now you go and complete the project. You should ensure that there is a project completion certificate. It's a certificate issued by any authority in company of the project. You also should have it on your record, and you should also have clauses in your agreement when you initially sat with the client, which say that if you satisfactorily do the work, then you should be able to use those reference, use his name or his reference in showcasing these things to your future clients. Very important again, you may presume that the client is Anki Dori, you have done a very good job for him, and you can use his name like Tata or Birla, somewhere you have done a good job and you want to showcase their logo onto your presentation or your pitch deck. Client can sue you, right? Unless you have a specific authority from the client for using his logo or using his recommendation, or even saying that you work for him and you delivered it well. And unless you have a letter of recommendation from the client or the clauses built into that effect in your agreement, you cannot use his logo or his agreement. It can make you liable for very serious legal consequences. As you know, I mean, client is also not one, right? I mean, what happens is a particular officer of the client gets transferred. The earlier officer ke saath you had some good connect, and that person was okay you using the company's name. The new person, gentleman, comes in and he doesn't know you, you don't know him, and you use the customer's logo, you can come into trouble. So in organizations, you think like that you are dealing with it's a non-personal organization, so you can't depend on a personal relationship when we are dealing with the other organization, which is a big client of yours. So these are the kind of things so far that we have seen in terms of documentation with respect to employees, with respect to vendors, and with respect to customers. Now we come to the last part of my presentation, which are some basic compliances that you need to do as per the regulatory things are concerned. First and foremost, if you are a format which is a privately limited company, which I generally encourage, I would say that if you're going to go big at some point in time, you are going to become a public limited company, you're going to get listed after 3 years or whatever. That is the time when you should, so you're going to make it big. So it's better that you start on the right format of a legal entity, and it's a privately limited company. You're a limited company, you're supposed to file your returns properly within the deadlines. Like there's a return on financials that you have to file another annual return within 30 days and 60 days of your annual general meeting. It may all look very simple. I mean, annual general meeting is the same people, your shareholders, maybe 2 or 3 of them sitting together and recording something, but you should do that formally. Otherwise, there are penalties. Then you are once your company is incorporated, within 6 months you have to file a return. I have seen in one of my companies that this return was not filed, and we actually had a very big trouble when we went in for listing. Actually, all these compliances are simple, I would say, but it's they call it stitch in time is saves 9 actually. So that is how it works. If you don't do these filings in time, this may cost you 300 rupees, 400 rupees for filing, not much, but they create a huge embarrassment and huge problem for you once you become big. Disqualification of directors, same thing. As you know, every organization has to has to file its returns, annual returns, and the organization fails to file its annual returns for 3 years, the directors are disqualified. You will become disqualified for becoming directors of other companies. If you have not filed the returns, if you have taken some good names on your board, just as you know, mentors or some big name, solid names from market, that person will become no, I mean disqualified to become director in any other company because your small startup to begin with has not filed its annual return in time. So these are very, very dangerous financial statements or annual returns. If you are not filed your director, you cannot act as director in either company if you want to float one more. Director's KYC, very important thing again. Every director has to have his director identification number. These things have become extremely strict nowadays. It was not so when I started my career 30 years back. The things have become really serious now. Filing income tax return, you may not have income, you may have losses, you may have a little income, but building that track record of having filed income tax, very important. Tax reduction, TDS, tax deduction source, you are supposed to, as I did not tell you, you are supposed to deduct tax on a lot of payments that you make under section 194 and the subsections thereon. There are certain criminal things, some people deduct the tax and forget to pay it to the government. They may just be forgetting about it. But this is a criminal offense. Actually, you are using government's money. Imagine you have deducted the tax and it is government's money that you have to remit to that person. But if you are not remitted to the government in time, it's a very, very serious offense. You may do it without knowledge. So what is the better way to do it? Whenever you deduct tax, just put it in the separate suspense account. Put it in the separate account so that you don't use it for your business. Non-deduction of tax, another offense. Delayed filings, incorrect filings, for every damn thing there is some or the other penalty. I would suggest that you should actually hire a professional service for this, a chartered accountant or a company secretary, whosoever you are supposed to do. It's better to pay those professional fees and keep yourself safe. Budget this thing in your business cost. Always budget. These are not very expensive things to engage professionals. Select the right professional, but get these things in order all the time. Goods and services tax, the new thing, new baby on the block. GST, you must have nowadays you must be hearing where people are getting arrested for not, or filing wrong invoices, or not filing the returns in time, or using government's money again, like income tax. Very, very serious things. For anybody who has got service turnover more than 20 lakh rupees, unless you're a special category, of course, or a goods turnover of more than 40 lakh rupees, GST is compulsory. And all these registrations are important for you because they, sort of establish your credibility. When a client is going to give you business, and he looks at all these registrations, he sees that, okay, this person has got PAN, he's got TAN, he has got GST registration, whatever returns
Yeah,
declaration that
hi.
he's supposed to file
He's
is
on
filed.
leave.
So this is how it works.
I
Um,
don't actually. I
I
don't know
think
actually.
with this, actually, I have finished the presentation in terms of giving you some broad idea in terms of what are the documentation that you need to do with various entities, various stakeholders. There will be some documentation you will actually have to do with your partners, your shareholders as well. Let's not get into that at this point in time, becomes overdose maybe. But this is what I want to share with you with my experience. As I said, last 1 hour, I tried to tell you a lot of things from my own experiences and the kind of mistakes that I have made or I have seen other people making. I'm happy to take a few questions if you have. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir. I think let's directly open the floor to the audience to ask any questions they may have.
Hi, this is Amit here. Can I go
Yes,
ahead and
Amit.
ask my question?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, sure.
Right, sir. One query for you, sir. Is bonded labor legally valid in India? I mean, when I say bonded labor, if I want to hire an employee, execute a bond with him for a period of maybe 1 or 2 years, and restrict that particular employee from working for anyone else, or leaving my company for a period of 2 years, or whatever duration of the bond is it legally sort of
no.
tenable in India?
No. At least my experience, I had toyed up with this idea a few years back, giving some bond, but that is not really valid in India unless it is statutorily available. Like those MBBS doctors are supposed to give a bond for serving the but Indian hospitals for 1 year. Those kind of statutory bonds are only valid. But the kind of thing that you are talking about is not really enforceable in India.
Okay, fair enough.
So if anyone has any questions, they can directly unmute their mic and ask, or they can type in the chat box below.
Yeah, hi. This is Chaitanya. I have a question for about the service agreements and the appointment letters that you covered. So, like I have previously worked in a MNC, so there the all the policies and were very sophisticated. They had trainings and sessions even after an employee gets admitted into the company. But as a startup, we may not have all those resources, or we may not have that time to remind employees of their responsibilities. So do you think just the initial paperwork would be binding on all employees? I mean, they will what we can do to actually enforce those terms and conditions on employees in as we as the years progress in the startup.
Yeah, good question. Because it's not just about startups. I agree. This problem is faced by established companies like ours as well. Only multinationals are able to do it because they have got a very, very disciplined way of doing it. There are different departments which work only on these things. You are absolutely right. I would say that the initial documentation which you have put in place, if it is proper and exhaustive, and the employee has signed it and agreed to abide by it, it has got pretty valid effect in as far as particularly if something goes to court at a later date. Because once the document is signed, it is not really required that you have to remind that person's responsibility again and again. He's a knowledge worker. He's not some supervisor. Not a foreman or somebody working on the road, digging up the road. So that is really not required. So the document which you have initially signed with him will stand you in good state if matters go to the court later on.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
So in that same continuing the same context, I'm Shivakiran, Atal Incubation Center manager.
Yeah.
So I have the from issues from the incubation point of view. A lot of startups have the agreements with the founders agreement and employee agreement on just on a company letterhead, right?
Right.
So how legally it is valid? Of course, you have answered partially in his earlier question, but how legally is it valid? Can I encourage people, startups to go with that way, or need to have some legally valid some format?
Okay. See, unless the document is required to be stamped as per the Stamp Act, like if there is a share capital that there is a founders agreement, there is share capital mentioned in it, or some documentation with it that, and that has to be stamped necessarily. All other documents like appointment letters or the other documents, they are okay to be. They did not be on a stamp paper. Nobody issues appointment letters on stamp paper, but still they are legally valid. So, so most of the documents are legally valid. I would say that unless they are specifically under Bombay Stamp Act or Indian Stamp Act.
So where do they get that kind of information? Like which kind will come under the Stamp Act? Or is there any site?
Yes, there is a lot of Google material on this. I mean, Google what is required, so that is easily possible. But as I said, even in those circumstances, suppose something has to be stamped and you're not stamped it, but it is signed document, it is still legally valid. The only thing is that courts can impound the document later on and make you pay the penalty to pay the stamp duty on it. But that doesn't mean that the document. That doesn't mean that document is invalid. Your terms will not be invalid.
Okay. Great. Wonderful. Thank you.
Hi Rajesh, I just wanted to ask one thing. Can you please throw some light on the review process or the performance review process, or how it is, how it takes place?
Yeah, sure. So I haven't worked in the startup, but I think that process will be same everywhere. So how it happens in our organization, I will tell you. At the beginning of the year, when the business plan of the organization is getting finalized, it is approved by the board. Then all our KRAs are set accordingly. So there is the expectation in the business plan by the board of directors into how much business will be done and what are the kind of what are the other parameters in terms of they for insurance company, what should be the persistency, what should be the claim ratio. Those are kind of things which are set up in the our business plan. From that flows, so thereafter we have a meeting internally, and then our KRAs are drawn for respective teams. So now, if I am in the legal department and I'm a compliance officer, then I will have my KRAs drawn. They are subjective. I agree. For me, it is not sales. So sales are defined by numbers easily. But even in my case, the KRAs will be drawn in terms of how many board meetings will be held in a year, when the agenda will be sent of the board meeting, whether any mistakes in the agenda or those kind of things will be a negative marking, that kind of thing. How many legal cases we fight in time with, how many cases we lose. So these are the kind of things which are embodied into my KRA. So this happens at the beginning of the year. So our year is say from April to March. The business plan gets approved in the earlier February board meeting. So by March end, we are ready with all these things. And from April 1, everybody has his goal sheet, as we would say, or a KRA or KPI, as we said earlier. Same thing. Thereafter, on a half yearly basis, it should be actually more frequent. I think quarterly is better. But in our organization, on a half yearly basis, we all fill up our self appraisal. So in that KRA sheet that has been given, that has been agreed with my CEO or the supervisors by the employees, everybody fills that KRA sheet saying that I have performed so much and I should be rated on the scale of 1 to 7 in on each respective KRS to this extent. So somebody say that I have done my board meeting work properly, so I should be rated 6. Or somebody say that I have handled my legal things properly. In sales, it will be very clear because that grid is drawn upfront in the month of February, March when discussions take place. He tells me if you achieve this budget, your rating should be 4, or if you don't achieve this budget, rating should be 3 or whatever. So all the with this sheet, we go and sit. I will go and sit in front of my CEO. Others will go in sit in front of their own supervisors, and the supervisor will also rate from his expectations side how much you have performed, how well you have performed. So you may have rated yourself 6. He may think that you are rated 5 or 4 or whatever. And at that point in time, the supervisor will tell you what are the things which have gone wrong, or what was his expectation, and how you bettered it or how you failed on it, and what care you should take in the next 6 months so that you can jump from 4 rating or 3 rating to the next level. So this happens in our company in the month of October every year after the September results are out. And then in the next March, there will be a final discussion. So in the first week of April, actually, after the March results are out, we go and sit with our supervisors, and the final rating is arrived at, taking into consideration what has happened in whatever corrections have been taken in the last 6 months. And based on that, the appraisal take place. There is a standard grid which is approved by the nomination remuneration company, which says that at rating 4 you will get 10% bonus, or rating 6 you get 40% bonus and 3% increment, or whatever. That standard grid is a part of the remuneration policy of the company, and according to that approved grid, then the person gets his bonuses and increments. So this completes the appraisal process. If there is a requirement of somebody who's as per the remuneration policy, again the person is eligible for a promotion after having completed a certain number of years in the existing role, and based on his capabilities and having some minimum ratings in the last 2 years, then the person is put up for promotion. If there is a vacancy in that department for his role, then he gets promoted also. So this is the long and short of the appraisal process that we conduct in our company.
Okay, thank you so much. It was really a detailed answer.
Hello, Shivkiran again here. So again, from incubation point of view, see, many of the startups, tech startups and early stage startups will not be having this, acumen of doing this paperwork and all. Is there any outsourcing activity that people can do, people do this for them?
There are agencies involved, I have heard. We have never tried. Because for established organization, as you know, it is more of an incremental work that few people do generally.
Exactly.
But there are agencies who help startups to these policies. Honestly, all these policies are pretty standard. I mean, they
Okay.
need not vary from startup to startup. So there are
Exactly.
agencies which help them out with these policies. Again, a
Okay.
lot of material is available, as you know, on the internet, and you can always, I would not say copy, but have it get inspired by a lot of policies which companies, established companies, put up on their respective website.
Yeah, yeah. I have seen a lot of such a free, material. You can, arrange accordingly to your startups. But as an incubator, I would see that way because there are some deep tech startups. I don't want them to divert their attention to anything other
I
than
agree.
tech.
I agree. I agree. I
Because
agree.
I see some strategic plans there. That's my selfishness. I mean, that's my comfort. That's what I'm
No,
looking at.
naturally, I agree with you. I agree. But there are
Okay,
agencies like that. Yes.
okay, okay. Thank you.
Hi, sir. Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question, please?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, like most of the startups are in evolving stage. So their job description hasn't been evolved. So in a way, they are not in a position to hire somebody who is experienced, and at the same time, they don't have that much of a job description to match that experienced candidates. So in such a situation, do you still suggest to have all those parameters that you have mentioned, like job description and interview process, exit process, and everything?
Uh, it is good to have, I would say. I agree. There are, as I said, there are consultants who are ready to help you with this. There are a lot of things which are also available on internet. If you do a little search, then it is not so difficult to get these things which are readily available. But I would suggest that on particularly on HR front, no, you have to be little more careful in terms of putting these things in place in the initial years itself, because it's not just about that hiring that you are going to do. It is about your own clarity of mind. As a CEO of that startup, you are the first HR head of that organization. So those are the things which are very critical from your perspective.
Yes, but as of now, as Mr. Shivkiran said, those are very much overwhelming to us.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
reading
No,
is
but actually,
also.
yeah, yeah, and I understand you. I completely understand your point. But they look overwhelming. They look descriptive. But as I said, once you get to do it, no, you realize that एक ही बार करना, and it is just suppose one policy is to be put in place. One policy is there, and you don't have to look at that policy for next 5 years, honestly. Or once you have a job description, and anyway, it is in your mind. It is just putting on your
Okay.
paper.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, Rajesh. It's policy
Okay,
is
sir.
always a one time. An amendment will happen once in a while you get extreme situations. Otherwise, policies once you are put in place, that will be actually lighthouses for any startup.
Yeah, yeah,
Otherwise, it will be very, very difficult. And 70 to 80% of startups in incubation centers close their shops because of a poor policy.
yeah. That's true. That is true.
Means when I say
Okay.
policy, it includes all HR,
Correct.
pay, everything.
Correct.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I guess if we are done with all the questions, we can conclude today's session. And I would definitely like to thank Rajesh sir for this very insightful and interesting lecture. And I think we definitely have to look into the documentation part on our side as well. And we will be sharing some resources with the participants that they can refer. And if they have any further questions, they can reach out to us.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Rajesh, for your wonderful
Thank
insight for
you.
the lecture. And participants, I believe you have got some leads and some understanding about the importance of documentation, importance of paperwork. Though it is e-paper or whichever paper it is, you need to have system in place if you want to really do good traction. Even that gives a credibility and discipline, and also it keeps you on track. These things. I believe this session has given some insights into that, and I thank Arthayan team for bringing such a wonderful experienced speaker to the audience. So thank you for your time, and Thank you for your presentation, and I thank all the participants for being here and learning, and I thank Arthayan team. So now goodbye to all of you. Have a good
I'm
day.
grateful for the opportunity to. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thanks, sir. Bye.
Malhar.